So Diane Stadler, Dianestadler. And I'm a professor at OHSU in the Department of Medicine, and I am the director of the graduate programs in human nutrition at OHSU.
Fantastic. So this follows a report from the World Health Organization, basically detailing the effects and what's wrong with sweetener, what sort of it does to your body, and then your brain chemistry as it processes sweets that are sugar-free and sweets that are sugar-loaded. So I guess, what is your knowledge, what is your experience and take on that sort of balance?
Sure. So first of all, I think this is an incredibly complicated guideline report that came out from the World Health Organization, the WHO. It's a very important report because the real goal of this information is to provide people that are in positions of decision making or policy making to take into consideration the types of foods that they might be purchasing for large groups. So you might consider, a hospital food service administrator, or you might consider people that run large output, high scale meal preparation restaurants. Or you might think of people in public health who are trying to align recommendations for specific communities or society in general with respect to how can they improve the quality of their diets so that the dietary impact on health can be optimized. And it's very complex. And this report is very complex. They have done a lot of research or kind of revisioning of work that has previously been done to look at the evidence as it exists right now with respect to the impact that using non-nutritive sweeteners, or what this report uses the term non-sugar sweeteners, and the impact that it has on somebody, or either an individual or large groups of people's ability to either maintain their weight if they are trending towards becoming overweight, or actually in the long term reducing their weight. And there's so much important information here that I'm happy to respond to specific questions that you have. Otherwise, I could talk about this for the entire 20 minutes of the interview. So go ahead and ask me some questions, and I'll try and answer them specifically.
Yeah, what was interesting to me is it wasn't just talking about the aspartames and the Splendas, it was also talking about stevia, truvia, those natural, like you mentioned, non-nutritive sweeteners. What was in that, what was talked about that might be surprising to people?
Well, I think so. So the bottom line is, when they looked at this whole body of literature, they found that two important things. One, they found that these types of sugars, non-nutritive sweeteners, non-sugar sweeteners, are being incorporated into so many products. And I think we know that. I spoke with one of the registered dietitians at OHSU yesterday, and she said it is so hard to find a wide, diverse group of foods that they might use in their food service system that doesn't have one of these products in it. So one of the concerns is that these products, these non-nutritive sweeteners, are starting to appear in all different types of products, and people might not be aware that they're in the products unless you're looking at the ingredient list of everything that you purchase. If it's not a whole food, like a whole fruit or a whole vegetable, if it's a packaged product, these non-nutritive sweeteners are starting to appear all over our food options. And they're appearing in our food options because these non-nutritive sweeteners create a sweet taste sensation, but they don't add calories. Our bodies don't digest them, or they're present in such minute amounts. They all have significantly higher sweetening power than actual table sugar does. And so very small amounts can give you that sense that the product tastes very sweet. And people like sweeter tastes in general, right? People tend to enjoy that sweeter sensation. And so they're appearing in so many different products, and people don't realize it. We're used to finding non-nutritive sweeteners in certain beverages, and they might be described as a diet beverage. And so we know that those products are there. But when they start to appear in products that we're not expecting them, and we're not paying attention to that, and if we're concerned about the total consumption of those products, it's almost like it's hidden in our diet. So that's one of the problems. They're present in a lot of foods. People aren't aware of their consumption patterns unless it's a specific product that they are purchasing because they know that that non-nutritive sweetener is in it. The other really important message that this report or these guidelines provide is that it says that the general goal of dietary recommendations is to improve the health of people's diets, to improve the nutritional quality of their diets. And that when people substitute a product that has a non-nutritive sweetener in it, they're not necessarily improving their diet. So even if in general, if you think about those foods that have those non-nutritive sweeteners, it's replacing the sugar. But the number of foods that are highly processed foods that have these non-nutritive sweeteners in them are not necessarily foods that you include in your diet to improve the quality of your diet. We always say, eat more fruits and vegetables, eat more whole foods, reduce the amount of foods that are highly processed, generally because highly processed foods tend to have a lot of sugar, they have a lot of salt, they tend to have a lot of fat, things that are really tasty. And to shift that dietary quality to foods that are more healthful, that is also saying things like shift the types of foods that you consume so that they're not containing high amounts of sugar or non-nutritive sweeteners, because those foods aren't giving you the vitamins, the minerals, the protein that we really need to look at a higher, to have a higher quality diet. So that's another really important factor that this study is showing. And then the third thing that they really emphasize quite a bit is that the use of non-nutritive sweeteners or non-sugar sweeteners doesn't have a long-term effect on either weight maintenance or weight loss among those individuals that are actively trying to lose weight. They're great in the short term in terms of helping people modify their food consumption behavior. But in the long term, there was no significant difference between those who consumed high levels of non-nutritive sweeteners and those who didn't in either their ability to maintain weight loss or continue to lose weight. So those studies were primarily studies that in the short term were considered 3-month studies, in the long term were considered longer studies. And that's true with weight loss in general. It's really hard, and it is really hard to keep that weight off. Most people don't have trouble losing weight. It's keeping that weight off. And the use of non-nutritive sweeteners did not necessarily make a difference in an individual's ability to keep that weight loss off.
That's so interesting because, when you think of weight loss, it of course has a lot more to do with just how much sugar you do or do not consume. It's your lifestyle, it's how much you work versus how much you're able to exercise, and then the food you nourish yourself with.
Right.
Also, I find it very interesting. I was listening to a doctor say that people drinking these diet beverages, these low-cal beverages, might think that, oh, I didn't consume any calories there, so now I can indulge elsewhere, leading to kind of
Right.
more issues. Can you talk
Right.
about that a little bit?
I definitely can, and I strongly believe that it's almost like it gives you a free pass, right? Okay, I'm going to consume this no calorie, sweet tasting beverage that I like, right? It's might have caffeine or not have caffeine. It might be carbonated. It might not be carbonated, but it's refreshing to me. So I'm going to drink this beverage, and I'm not going to drink the caloric alternative to that beverage. And because I'm doing that, it's going to allow me to eat cheesecake for dessert, right? And cheesecake might have 500 calories in it, right? And so it kind of gives us that free pass to think, I'm making up that difference, right? I'm reducing my caloric intake from this beverage, but it's going to allow me to just substitute something else. And I think that happens a lot. And it's people need more education, right? Sure, it might be a good alternative, or drinking a glass of water or unsweetened tea or something like that might be a great choice and a better choice than even something that is sweetened with a non-nutritive sweetener. But you have to realize that you might be saving 120 calories by not consuming a traditionally sweetened beverage, but that piece of cheesecake is 500 calories and it's not an even substitution. So I think that does happen. But I do think there is a time and place for everything, really. I'm a strong believer in you can incorporate all different types of things into your diet in moderation and with the knowledge of making good decisions. So for many people, being able to consume a beverage that is sweetened with a non-nutritive sweetener is really important for them in maintaining their weight, or keeping their blood sugar lower, especially for individuals with diabetes or prediabetes, which this report addresses, that these guidelines are not intended for individuals in those categories. But you can't just pull something away from somebody that is working hard to lose weight or maintain their weight. You have to replace it with something that is going to work for them. And just telling people to don't drink this non-nutritive sweetened beverage, drink water or tea. It sounds easy, but that's not always the easy thing to do. So I think we need to support people in being able to, really make sound decisions, educated decisions about what choices they're going to make and why. And then also to keep your consumption of those products, those non-sugar sweeteners, to a minimum. Maybe not completely eliminate them from your diet if that's something that you really enjoy, but to not overdo it. And I think a lot of times there's that, these studies compared those that are low consumers to those that are high consumers for potential health implications. And it was really those that were the high consumers that were putting themselves at risk, might have a little bit of extra risk for cardiovascular disease or other long-term chronic conditions.
Right. If we all drink purified rainwater always and only breathed in fresh, clean air, we'd all live forever, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's not. You mentioned it shortly or quickly. What do these sugar-free products do to your blood sugar? Do they not impact it really at all?
Yeah, really. So if you're consuming a product that has, and let's just take a diet beverage, because a diet beverage is about 99.9% water, right, with some flavoring agents, some coloring agents in it, but there's 0 calories, right? So if you're consuming that product, not taking anything else into consideration, and you're substituting that for the regular beverage, then that doesn't have any carbohydrate in it, doesn't have any protein or fat, then it's the carbohydrate primarily in those sweetened beverages or sweetened foods that's going to cause your blood sugar to go up. So if you're drinking a Diet Cola or something like that, that does not have the same glucose raising impact that a regular product does. Or likewise, if you're consuming a food that has a non-nutritive sweetener in it and it replaces most or all of the sugar and there's no other carbohydrate in that product, then your blood sugar would stay lower. It would mute that rise in blood glucose concentration associated with consuming, sugar or carbohydrate.
I only have a couple more questions for you, Diane.
Okay.
Whether it be stevia, Splenda, what does the consumption of these non-nutritive sweeteners do to your body over time if you are consuming them regularly? Not even in excess, just regularly.
Right. So first of all, I want to say that most of these non-nutritive sweeteners have been extensively studied. They for decades, 30 and 40 years, many of these products have been under investigation for long periods of time. And the different types of studies have differed, and the information that's available about them is pretty extensive. So there is no evidence that suggests that very minimal or moderate consumption on a long period of time, over a long period of time, increases health risks. There's not even real strong direct evidence that says that high consumption of these products over a long period of time has a direct negative health impact. More epidemiological studies, which are what are reported in these with these guidelines, suggest that moderate to high consumption of these non-nutritive sweeteners is associated with, not caused by, but it's associated with potentially higher risk of certain conditions like hypertension, cardiovascular disease. There was reference to bladder cancer, which I think is very controversial. It's pretty much been ruled out. So I was kind of surprised to see that come up again in this paper. So it's more of an association. And the challenge that comes in with those types of studies is they're all different components of somebody's lifestyle that could contribute to that risk, just like you were suggesting. Maybe somebody that consumes beverages, for instance, that have non-nutritive sweeteners also tends to consume other foods that might be associated with chronic disease or have other lifestyle patterns that are associated with some of these, chronic conditions. And so it's really hard to tease it out. But what this report does say is that there is an association between moderate to high consumption of these non-nutritive sweeteners over time may put somebody at higher risk for some of these conditions.
I'm learning so much. I find this very, very fascinating.
It is interesting. It really is interesting.
Yeah, you talking to me about it, of course, is easier to understand than this report where I get bored and lost. So my last question for you, and I don't know if you are a soda drinker or if you are tea or fruit juice or coffee, whatever, but if you had the sugar-free diet option and the full sugar option in front of you and you were just going to grab a drink, what would you choose and why?
Okay. It probably depends on the situation. I'm not a great water drinker. I try and I try and I try, and I do not drink a lot of water. I like flavored waters, so I do like tea. I don't like really sweet things personally. So drinking iced tea that's made with black tea that doesn't have any sugar in it, I can drink that without a problem. So I really try and drink a lot of tea, especially in the summertime. But I also drink diet beverages that have non-nutritive sweeteners in them. Not much. I mean, I can drink 6 ounces of a diet beverage, and it can be really refreshing to me. but I never drink, and this is me personally, I never drink a fully sugared, like cola or carbonated beverage, I guess is the best way to put it. They're too sweet for me, and I don't like that. And I also pay attention to, where I'm getting my calories, and I don't want to waste what I consider to be just really precious calories on something that, one, has a lot of sugar, has no other nutrients in it, and that is not pleasing to me. But that question too comes up, and in these guidelines, they say replacing those non-nutritive sweetened beverages with fruit juice. Well, that's a great recommendation, but fruit juice has calories in it. It's got sugar in it. And even though it's naturally occurring sugar, it is still something that contributes to your caloric load. They also have other nutrients, vitamin C, potentially fiber, and other components that can be healthy. But when most people make recommendations to make that substitution with fruit juice, they're saying 4 to 6 ounces of fruit juice, which isn't a whole heck of a lot of fluid. So I think we need to learn how can we create those opportunities that have fewer calories, especially for adults and also for children. How can we encourage people to consume beverages or other foods that are more nutritious, don't have that high sugar capacity that many foods do have, but yet not overdo it with any products that have non-nutritive sweeteners in them.
I've been trying to keep track of my sugar more, and I always forget how much sugar is in my coffee that I drink, because coffee is just something you drink continuously. And yeah, I think I need to cut out all other sugar, because the coffee I drink in a day really.
Well, and those are really important tips. I know that when I'm counseling people, I talk a lot about beverages, and okay, let's talk about, where are you getting your fluid, and why are you drinking what you drink, and what's in that product. And different coffee beverages can have a lot of sugar. So I do have I have a favorite coffee beverage that doesn't have any sugar. I mean, whenever I go to any, coffee shop, I always order an Americano with a half an inch of non-fat steam milk, no sugar in it. Because I think coffee beverages are those types of beverages that can have a lot of sugar in them, and people don't realize it. So that's always a place of cutting back, how can you cut back on that just kind of indiscriminate use of sugar or sweetener? Yeah.
Right. Maybe I'll take more B12 or actually sleep more. So something like that. So, well, Diane, I don't want to take all of your time this morning, but I really do appreciate you making the time to talk with me,
Sure.
because your knowledge and your passion for the topic is obviously very present, and it's going to translate really well to people who just have questions and are curious.
Absolutely.
You said things that were maybe not so obvious, and that might give some people some relief that they're not doing horrible things to their body all the time if they're trying their best. So again, thank you so much for talking with me. If I had any other questions, I'll just send you a quick email.
Perfect.
But I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and hopefully a cooler weekend.
I know it's unexpectedly cooler today in Portland, so
yeah,
I'm surprised by that.
It's very welcome. So
Yeah.
great.
Yes.
All right, Diane, take care.
Okay.